Oui.
Oui.
Parfait. Approbation des procès verbaux.
Je propose d'approuver le procès verbal des séances du conseil tenues aux dates suivantes. Séance ordinaire de 25 avril 2022, séance spéciale de 5 mai 2022 et séance spéciale de 13 mai 2022.
Parfait. Merci, la conseillère Small-Pennefather. Je peux voir l'appui, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Yulin. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Merci. There's nothing under correspondence. We're going to move right to report of the mayor. Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir à tous. Welcome to our regular council meeting. Bienvenue à notre réunion ordinaire du conseil. As part of the consultations for the new Sports and Recreation Center, I made a commitment to meet a group of residents that lived on Bedbrook. Because they were in the line of fire during construction, I wanted to ensure that they had a direct channel to express their concerns and opinions. I'll be reaching out in the next few weeks to organize that consultation with them. Dans le cadre des consultations pour le nouveau centre sportif et récréatif, je me suis engagé à rencontrer un groupe de résidents qui habitaient sur Bedbrook. Parce qu'ils sont dans la ligne directe pendant la construction, je voulais m'assurer qu'il y avait un canal direct pour exprimer leurs préoccupations et leurs opinions. Je vous contacterai dans les prochaines semaines pour organiser cette consultation. Though there was some optimism that Bill 96 would either be withdrawn or significantly modified, it was voted upon, did pass, and will soon become an extremely ugly law of the land. It has a profound effect on so many aspects of our daily lives that its all-encompassing nature and extremely wide reach make it a real nightmare. As far as the town is concerned, we will continue to do what the law allows us to do, but that's part of the problem. Many of the practical applications are not yet fully defined. We'll continue to monitor the directives from the CAC government to see how they further want to curtail our rights to serve or be served in English. Bien qu'il y ait eu un certain optimisme quant au fait que le projet de loi 96 sera soit retiré, soit modifié de manière significative, il a été voté, a été adopté et deviendra bientôt une loi extrêmement laide du pays. Il y a un effet profond sur tant d'aspects de notre vie quotidienne que sa nature globale et sa portée extrêmement large en font un véritable cauchemar. En ce qui concerne la ville, nous continuerons de faire ce que la loi permet de faire, mais cela fait partie du problème. De nombreuses applications pratiques ne sont pas encore entièrement définies. Nous continuerons de surveiller les directives du gouvernement de la CAQ pour voir comment il veut réduire davantage nos droits et de servir ou d'être servi en anglais. Please continue to stay safe, stay vigilant, and stay healthy. Thank you. We're going on to councilors' reports. We're going to start with seat number 1 on matters pertaining to public security and urban planning. Councillor Lauren Small-Pennefather.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Bonsoir à tous et tous. Good evening, everybody. I have a short report this evening.
Thank you.
Our first is the presence of dogs off leash in Percival Park in Hodgkins Field. Everybody must be aware that it is prohibited to have dogs off leash in any public spaces, including parks. And the PSOs have been out and patrolling and will work with residents to advise them of the bylaw. After issuing several verbal warnings, there will, however, be a time where we'll unfortunately have to apply some penalties and fines to residents that do not respect, or people who are coming from outside of the town who are not residents that are also having dogs off leash will also be fined. Ensure as well that you have your permits for any kind of building that takes place where you require building permit under PAC. Parking exceeding 60 minutes as well. As you're aware, there's a 60-minute parking ordinance that must be respected on Westminster, and to please respect the 60-minute parkings. I also wanted to remind residents with regards to thefts, both car and porch piracy that's going on. As you're aware, we're not a gated community, and therefore we're subject to individuals who come into the town, who follow Canada Post and other kinds of delivery vehicles, to please be very vigilant, and if you're not at home, to have other arrangements made where you can leave your parcels with a neighbor or to have them picked up. We do have PSOs, again, who are patrolling, and if they do see somebody committing an act, they're able to interact, but please be reminded that under the criminal code, police in our jurisdiction do have authority under the criminal code to act on thefts, including both car and property theft, and to please ensure that you're continuing to report to the police, as well as to please advise our public security officers. There were also 2 small fires that took place over the course of the last 2 weeks. One was on Hudson, and you may well be aware of the fire that took place at Montréal-Ouest. Luckily, the damage was contained. School was closed, I believe, for 1 day, and it was caused to a sweeper in the school that unfortunately caught fire, but it was caught very quickly. And PSO as well as the fire department acted very quickly and were able to contain the fire. And the last note that I wanted to make was with regards to basketball nets. As you know, there is a tolerance with regards to basketball nets and allowing residents to play basketball, to please make sure once you've finished playing for the evening to make sure that you bring your basketball net back on your own property, and to please make sure that they're securely in place, either with sand or with water, to avoid any kind of potential security concerns, or if they're overlapping on a sidewalk or on even pavement, it could cause a safety hazard. So to please make sure that you do respect that and to bring that equipment back onto your property. And that would be it. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lauren Pennefather. Reporting from seat number 2 on matters pertaining to Public Works, Communications and the Environment, Councillor Elizabeth Yulin.
Thank you very much. Merci. Bonsoir à tous. So priority work on the roads and sidewalks will continue throughout the month of June and into the summer. You'll notice that there are cones located on problematic areas of sidewalk and catch basins and manholes throughout the town, and these are the areas that we'll be focusing on to repair. Additionally, the town flowers have begun to be planted around the town hall and the town gardens. The Westminster commercial sector will also be full of greenery again this year, with hanging flower baskets and some trees in pots along the sidewalks. The spring tree planting campaign has begun with 41 trees set to be planted on the public domain along residential streets. It's not too late. If you're interested in having a tree planted in front of your house, please contact Public Works. And finally, I'll mention that we'll be doing work on the sidewalks in Westminster commercial sector after Canada Day, so please pay close attention to the town communications for these specific details. Moving on to Environmental Department, Household Hazardous Waste Day took place on Sunday, May 15th, and everything went smoothly. The free compost distribution had a bit of a hiccup and was distributed a week later than planned, as the first batch was found to be contaminated. So we had to order another load. Luckily, this was discovered before any of the soil was offered to residents, unlike in many other towns where residents had started to collect the contaminated compost. There's some still over there, by the way. If you haven't gotten yours yet, it's some still available, and it's very good. The Monarch Butterfly Garden is now in place at Roylock Park at the corner of Sherbrooke and Ballantyne, and signage and digital information will be ready shortly. Free for All Day was back on Saturday, May 29th, this past weekend, after a 2-year hiatus, and there were many residents out there taking advantage of surplus items and hunting for treasures. So this program may happen again in the fall. We'll see if there's enough enthusiasm to do it again. Let's see. So also to promote reuse, the Environmental Action Committee is promoting a town-wide garage sale on Saturday, June 18th, and we urge all residents to participate out of their own garages. And finally, the $10 tree giveaway was a program that was especially popular this year, with a record 44 trees being delivered to residents to plant on their own properties. And switching for a third time to the communications portfolio, the department has been busy this month working on the public consultations for the new rec center, including an online survey, 2 public focus groups, and a roundtable with the community groups. A meeting with residents living close to the new center is still to come. A report on the process thus far will be made available on the website early next month. So that's it for me, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them during question period. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. Reporting from seat number 3 on matters pertaining to finance, recreation, and topics related to the status of an age-friendly municipality. Councillor Colleen Feeney.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Bonsoir, good evening, everyone. First, I'll start with Finance and Administration. The Town Hall offices are now open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8:30 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon. And the Community Centre is open all day, 8:30 to 4:30. You can see the website for full information. In Finance, the 2021 Pension Fund financial statements are ongoing. And as of today, 91% of the 2022 property taxes have been fully paid. Statements were sent out to residents with outstanding accounts. In this past month, there was about $713,000 of disbursements that you'll see passed later in the meeting. And as this is your money, I like to give you an idea where it's coming from. As usual, about 33% of it comes from deductions at source and benefits, as well as utilities. So that's about $250,000. After that, the next biggest expense is Public Works at $170,000, and largest expenses there are the garbage, and that was the timing of some of the bills. That means garbage, recycling, and compost, $75,000. Outside contract work, which included drains, fire hydrants, electrical work, etc., was about $30,000. We also, in the administration, had two major expenditures this past month. One of them dealt with our pension fund, so we paid for the audits for the pension fund and for the town, and also for our recycling audit. And we did pension fund management. That was about $44,000. And in insurance, we renewed two annual contracts and paid a few claims, $45,000. And in capital expenditures, we spent about $110,000. The majority of that, which is about $95,000, was related to our new recreation center. So those are the major expenditures this past month. I'll move on now to recreation. The seniors had two events in person. The first one was Bruno Stenson, who spoke about the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. And just this past week, we had the first in-person luncheon, the spring luncheon. Was held on May 27th with music by Don Tyler Watson. It was very much enjoyed by all. We have many special events coming up this year, so we're happy because those were put on hold for a couple of years. So, starting with this coming Tuesday, and not tomorrow, but a week Tuesday, Tuesday, June the 7th, we're going to have community night and art in the park. The event will be held in Davies Park from 6 to 8 p.m. There will be live music by Razalaz, food by Burger de Ville. The fire simulator and local groups will also be present, and the SPVM, a bike theft prevention group called Project Garage 529, will be there. This is always very popular, so we ask you to register on Amelia ahead of time if you want to see them and register your bike. Montreal-West artists are also invited to be part of this event, and we'd like them to contact the Recreation Department to participate. Other upcoming events will be, as usual, the Fête Nationale du Québec on June 23rd in Davies Park. Canada Day is back again, July 1st at 5 p.m. in Strathern Park with a parade at 3:30, starting on Ainsley. We'll have a youth duathlon on Saturday, July the 9th at Hodson's Field, and the Queen Platinum Jubilee Night on July the 12th in Davies Park. For the community centre, summer registration is open on Amelia for our children's programs at the community centre. Then that includes both full and half-day programs. And summer fitness programs will be starting in June, and they include outdoor boot camp, gentle yoga, yoga lattes, yoga for stiff men, stretch, Zumba, reach, TRX bar, and eccentrics. All the information is on our website. Again, we register for those on Amelia. In the pool, the registration's underway, and we are started getting the pool ready to open this coming Saturday, June the 4th. A full swim schedule is available on the town website now. In terms of day camp, it begins in a month with over 245 children have registered. So we are now on pace to have a great summer. 2 trailers and 1 large 20 by 30 tent have been installed or are being installed on Hodson Field to help shelter the kids in inclement weather. Staff has been hired and the managers begin work on June the 3rd, preparing for a fun and safe summer for campers. And finally, in the arena, general repairs are underway for next season, including repairs to boards, dashers, and flooring, and regular maintenance. And the skate park will open mid-June. And again, that schedule will be on the website. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Merci.
Thank you very much, Councillor Feeney. And reporting from seat number 4 on matters pertaining to urban planning, Councillor Maria Torres.
Bonsoir à tous. Good evening, everyone. In my last communique, I wrote that in the last couple of months, the Urban Planning Department has received a much higher than usual amount of permit applications. Well, I was not exaggerating. During any given month, the department might issue somewhere between 10 to 14 permits. Last month alone, we broke a record and issued a total of 94 permits. These permits include, among others, permits for fences, swimming pools, building accessories, decks and porches, home renovation, driveways, walkways, etc. As the Urban Planning Department continues to receive a large number of applications, the delays in issuing permits are increasing. I would like to ask you once again to please be patient. We understand that a lot of the projects are time sensitive. However, the Urban Planning Department needs to do their due diligence when processing each application. During the month of May, the Planning Advisory Committee met twice, reviewing a total of 22 files. PAC will continue meeting during the summertime. The next meetings will take place on the 8th and 22nd of June, on the 22nd of July, and on the 6th and the 24th of August. Please remember that all applications for permits and other authorizations must be done via the town's website, where you also find all necessary information related to the applications, including important dates and forms. If you have any questions or comments, please do not hesitate to call me or send me an email at mtorres@montreal-west.ca. And that's it for me tonight. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Torres. So that completes the councillors' reports. We're going to move on to the first public question period. So our first question period, we will answer questions from the floor for a maximum of 25 minutes. We will limit it to 2 questions per person. A short preamble, your first question, and a follow-up question if you want. And I'll remind you that it's a question period and not a debate period. After questions from the floor, we will answer questions from residents who have submitted online until 2 p.m. today on any topic. Same rule applies, 25 minutes total, 2 questions per person maximum. In the second question period, we will take questions pertaining to the agenda submitted via our website during the meeting. We will limit it to 10 minutes from the floor and 10 minutes from online. So if there's somebody who wants to ask a question, I'm going to ask you to step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the files, and go ahead and ask your question.
It's working? Okay. Harold Knowles, 256 Percival. I think you answered my question about implications of Bill 96 on the town, but like what could happen? Can one level of government, let's say we're in non-compliance or something, can they fine the town and then we're all liable for some sort of...
I have to be honest with you, Mr. Knowles, that's one of the most troublesome areas for me. One of the amendments that came during the process was they added amendment number, if I remember correctly, it was 114. And that amendment said that if a town is in non-compliance, they can go as far as withholding grants that you've been accorded. So we get grants all the time to do our streets and things along those lines. We're receiving a grant for the recreation center. If we're in non-compliance, and again, when we mentioned it, when we highlighted it to them, the government said, well, no, that's a last resort. But that's not the way the wording is now it's the law. It's not the way it's worded in there. So that's a little bit scary, a little bit problematic. But I have to be honest, in general, we're very, very good. We're very compliant with these things. But there are so many aspects that are unknown. Like I said, I kept using the example of finding an old version of some software on an old computer that we're not allowed to have because it's in English.
Right.
So is that the kind of thing, well, they're saying, well, just get rid of it, or we're going to fine you, or you know what, now we're going to withhold a grant. It's
So
completely...
even if it's a federal grant, because all the federal grants route through the province, right?
Yeah, and again, I don't know that nuance. That's why I mentioned too that a lot of the regulations aren't fully defined yet. You mentioned a very good point. A lot of the grants we receive are part federal, part provincial. And if for some reason we're in default of a provincial side, does that mean that they withhold the federal side? I'm not sure. I don't have that answer. But there's just a lot of questions there. But in general, the town is very good at respecting our obligations in terms of the laws. So I don't foresee a problem, but just the latitude and the lack of clarity.
The search
that's in
and
that.
seizure.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Okay, thank you very much.
no problem. Thank you, Mr. Knowles.
Hi, I'm Susan Petticelli from 244 Brock North.
Yes.
I did send you an email to the questions, so if you get to it, forget it. My thing is, and I've asked this question before, I didn't like your answer then, and sure I'm not going to like it now.
I'm gonna promise you you're not gonna like it.
I know I'm not going to like it. When and if ever in my lifetime are we going to redo Brock North?
Councillor Yulin?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. I also don't have an answer that you're going to like, probably. Brock North is a terrible street on top, but not such a terrible street underneath, unfortunately, and that's where we get our grants, when the infrastructure underneath is bad. So Brock North is not, up at the top of the list. Can I say when it might be done? I really can't. We have a priorities list, and there are certain streets in the town that are on it, and Brock North, unfortunately, in your block, is not at the top of that list.
Because several years ago, it was on the list. And then somehow or other, it was turned around and we're taken off the list.
Okay.
And never seems to be put back. Okay, so the
Yeah.
street is in bad condition. It is the street for first responders. Most of us go through Brock, especially that section there. And so we're not going to have it done because the sewers apparently are good in that section.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's possible. The street is, as you know, pathetic. Okay, it's almost embarrassing to live there. So that's one question. The other question is you recently repaired the sidewalks, okay? And the instructions that were probably given out was just slap some asphalt and that's it. So the asphalt that was slapped on our driveway is really interesting. Right out of the driveway, which we drive every day off, it's a ski slope.
It's a, sorry?
A ski slope. It taking
Oh,
out,
okay.
okay, because that section of the sidewalk, during the winter time, with the passing, it was in bad shape in the fall. Then during the snow removal and everything, pieces of cement kept coming off. We risk every time slashing one of the tires. At $700 a tire, that's quite a lot of money. So, and now we put asphalt on it, and you could see it already, it's disintegrating. It's separating itself. That's not going to last the whole summer. I don't know. I know the workers were giving certain instructions, but you should really look at it.
Okay, well, you did ask a question online too, which is great because I have that in writing. So what I do after a meeting like this is I'll send all of these questions over to Public Works and they'll have a look at them. And so your
Yeah.
address in particular, they'll have a look at that
So you should
driveway.
have it looked, because it's bad and it's not going to last the summer.
I appreciate that. We'll definitely have somebody go over and have a look.
Okay,
If I
thank
could
you.
just add something, Mrs.
Yeah.
Petticelli, too. Unfortunately, some brainiac way back when they decided to build Brock, they built it with the street going underneath the sidewalks. And that's probably part of the problem. Most of the time you have the sidewalks going down and you build the street in between so that you have a lot of hardy cement. What's happened with on Brock South is you have a layer
We're
of
on North.
concrete,
Brock North.
excuse me. You have a layer of concrete, and then you have a very, very thin layer where your sidewalks are coming down, and that's what keeps breaking.
Yeah.
So we can't, and unfortunately, we can't cut and fix those because the whole street is made the same way. So-
Yeah, it's more than just a little slope. I wish I had taken a picture.
Oh, believe me, I
It's
live.
quite a slope, and
Yeah.
it takes up about 1/3 of the sidewalk.
Believe me, we live on
Because-
Wolseley, and we're living the same thing. Our
Yeah.
street is in the same condition. It just doesn't have the same public presence that Brock does, but we're living the same thing. So we absolutely understand what it is. And as Councillor Yulin was saying, it's all a question of the prioritization. So there'll be a new plan d'intervention that allows us to set the priorities again. And I have to be honest with you, since I've been here, I don't ever remember your block of Brock being on the list. So I've been here coming up to 16 years now.
Well, it was before you came.
Yeah, so that's a long, long time ago. So
Because I've been here since '85.
yeah, so I'm just saying
So
I don't ever
I know
remember.
we were on the list,
Yeah,
and for some reason or other,
yeah.
it just sort of, we
Yeah.
got
Well,
off the
what
list.
might have happened if it was that long ago is the grant. I mean, we're really only doing streets that we can get grants for the most part. So if it was in the days when the grants were defined differently, it may have been that Brock, because of the state of the top of the street, you know, the surface
Yeah,
might
the
have been
top
up.
of the street is not good
Yeah, but the
either.
government defines their priorities differently, and now it's all the underground infrastructure. That's the only thing you get money for. So
So no idea.
I'm sorry, I don't have an idea. I apologize, but I don't. I'd be honest if I tried to say, oh, 3 years. No, it's not realistic.
Do we know what kind of condition it is besides being good? I mean, is it like on the borderline to being bad?
I don't know.
We don't know that
I
answer.
don't know.
That when they redo the plan d'intervention, usually they're doing, like they go and look at all the sewers, they send cameras down, and that's how they order or reprioritize things. So we may have a better idea when they put the plan d'intervention up to date.
Okay.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We're going to move now. I think that's it. Yeah, we're going to move on to the online questions. First question comes from Milan Rose, 22 Garden. Recently on FB, parents of Mo-West discussed prohibition to wash cars or change tires on public streets. Councillor Small provided Article 67 and 68, no repairs, no washing, and logic is to prevent the town from being liable for someone tripping. Several questions followed that needed responses. One, what if someone has a flat tire? We have to have our car towed. What if it's in an inclined driveway? Very dangerous. By the way, Article 62 still makes it illegal for kids to play street hockey. Perhaps some improvements to these laws is warranted, not tickets. Thank you. Councillor Small-Pennefather, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for your question, Elon. With regards to your reference to car washing on the streets, we'll be definitely taking a look at some of the bylaws that are quite dated, and we'll take a look at those with public security to see if we can improve those where necessary. And we always say to apply the principle of common sense, that if you have a flat tire, obviously under emergency circumstances, you could pull to the side of a road and repair a flat tire, or if you have something else that's an urgent repair. And again, I'll repeat that PSOs often will approach a resident if they're not well educated with regards to the bylaws, and then give them some information. And we'll obviously, if certain acts are repeated, then the PSO would apply a fine, but in most circumstances it would be a verbal warning. And with regards to your reference for Article 62, which is actually Article 63, with regards to street hockey, there actually is not a bylaw specific to street hockey. The bylaw and the article are specific to playing on roadways, and it reads as follows: that no child shall be permitted to play on a roadway, and no child is defined as under the age of 5 shall be permitted to be on a public and thoroughfare unless in the care of a responsible person. This is really to avoid where potentially a child would be left to play on the middle of the street. And if I could use an illustrative example, for instance, on Westminster, I've never seen anybody playing street hockey on Westminster. So obviously it's a safety issue with blocking traffic, but there is no intent to prohibit street hockey. Again, it's a tolerance, and PSOs do work with residents to inform them with regards to the bylaws, and to ensure that there is a code of conduct as well if someone is playing street hockey, to ensure that they're staying within a substantial distance from any kind of vehicles or someone's house specifically. But those are the way that that is specifically how that bylaw is applied. And again, if you have any further questions or require some clarifications, I invite you to contact me as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pennefather, and thank you for your question, Mr. Alan Rose. I'm going to read another question from Alan Rose, and that was also asked by Kathy Faludi. Kathy Faludi's at 16 Garden. She says, I believe I'm correct that dogs are not allowed in parks in Montreal-West. I am noticing more and more dogs in R.D. Paul Park, and this predates the Montreal-West Dog Run being closed for renovation. Can a prominent sign be put up outside the gate that no dogs are allowed? And can council remind people in next bulletin that goes out? And the same question from Mr. Rose. R.D. Paul Park at Garden and Brock is often used by dog owners to let their dogs run free. I have only seen non-residents do this. I believe allowing dogs in town parks is against our bylaws. The offenders didn't get ticketed, unfortunately. I would like to ask for at least the proper sign at the park that indicates that dogs are prohibited in the park at all times as per our town bylaws. Thank you and have a good evening, Ilan. So if I can ask you to address the questions, please, Councillor Small-Pennefather.
Sure, absolutely, and thank you. I did allude to it earlier in my report as well. It's very timely because I did write an article about bylaws in the Informer and was very specific about the bylaws that pertain to dogs in public spaces. Off-leash, dogs are prohibited from running on public property, including parks. They are allowed to be in a park if they are on a leash and they're with their owner or whoever is walking them. They can go through a park, so they are allowed to be on a leash, and we can absolutely look at if there is signage perhaps that can be improved. We can look at that signage as well, but again, I will remind residents to please ensure that their dogs, when they're on public spaces, including schools, including baseball fields, and including public parks, that you do keep your dog on a leash, and that's really for the safety and security, not just of residents and people, but also of your dogs as well, of their welfare as well. So thank you very much for the question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pennefather, and thank you for your questions, Alan Rose and Kathy Faludi. Next question comes from Daniel Budd, 193 Wolseley Avenue North. One of the child swings in Davies Parks appears to be broken, and the mechanism that holds a swing up is held together by duct tape. When will this be fixed, and perhaps the swing should be taken down until then? If I could ask you to answer that, Councillor Yulin, please.
Yes, thanks very much for your question, Daniel, and pointing out that one of the swings is being held up by duct tape. I can assure you that it was not Public Works who duct taped it. We don't use duct tape for our repairs. So I will send your comment to Public Works tomorrow morning, and I'm sure the duct tape will be replaced by a proper repair. So thanks very much for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. Next question comes from Rick Gianfelice, 234 Westminster North. Hello, can the town please install a garbage can at the northwest corner of Nelson and Westminster? There's a bunch of people waiting for the bus, and there's often garbage strewn about because they have nowhere to dispose of it. Can the city also replace the damaged bench at the northwest corner of Parkside and Westminster? It has been over 2 years that this bench has been damaged, and not repairing or replacing it just sends the wrong message. Thank you. Councillor Yulin, please.
Certainly. Thanks, Rick, for your question and pointing that out to us. The question about the garbage has come up before, and we have looked at that before. However, I will ask them to look at it once again and see if we can't have something installed, a small garbage can. I know there's not a lot of room in on that particular corner for a regular garbage can, which is why we haven't done it in the past, but maybe we can find a solution to that. As for the bench, yeah, thanks for pointing that out, and as I said about same thing with the swing, this will go over to Public Works in the morning, and we'll see if we can take a look at that bench, and if there's some reason why it can't be repaired, we'll have to remove it, but hopefully it can be repaired, and it'll be done fairly soon. Thanks very much for your question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin, and thank you for your question, Mr. Gianfelice. Next question comes from Colin Broadhead, 148 Percival. Rumor has it that a kid was hit on Westminster last week. Was wondering what other steps can be taken to improve safety on our streets. Most small rural towns have signs with smiley face or frowns when you speed through. Don't know about you, but they work on me. Can we invest in those? 3D painted crosswalks, speed bumps. Can we repaint the crossings more than once a year? Add a cement block and stop sign at the intersections like we have at in the middle of Westminster and Miller. Thanks. Councillor Small-Pennefather?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Broadhead, for your question. With regards to safety and security, of course, this is paramount for the town and for council. We don't have any information with regards to a child or anybody being struck on Westminster recently. And with regards to your suggestions, I appreciate those, as we will be shortly convening the traffic safety committee, which has now evolved into a community safety committee. So candidates who sent me information will be contacted shortly, and we'll hopefully have a meeting within the next month. So thank you very much for your question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pennefather, and thank you for your question, Mr. Broadhead. Next question comes from Dominica Puccini, 24 Ronald. Good day to everyone. Thank you, as 16 Ronald Drive owners are now maintaining the front yard. However, the backyard property has not been maintained for over a year, and the weeds, trees, and plant growths are not only unsightly, but continuously encroaching onto my backyard property. As a peaceful neighbor, I would kindly ask the owner myself, however, I do not know who it is. I would appreciate it if a town inspector could come assess the unacceptable situation and advise owners to remedy it. Thank you. Councillor Torres, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Pulcini, for bringing this issue to our attention. I will pass it along to the town's inspector. I'll pass you the notes, and for him to look into this issue. I will make sure that I follow up and contact you directly as soon as I have an answer. Thank you very much again, and we'll be in touch shortly. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Torres, and thank you for your question, Dominica Puccini. La prochaine question vient de Pierre Gagnon, et je pense malheureusement la question a été mal adressée à nous ici. L'adresse est le 555 Honoré Beaugrand, appartement numéro 1. J'ai 73 ans, handicapé. J'attends depuis 2019 un logement à prix modique. J'étais le 104e en 2019 et en 2022, je regarde sur la même liste et je suis rendu au 240e rang. Que se passe-t-il depuis 3 ans d'attente? Personne ne me répond à mes lettres non plus. J'ai l'impression que vous préconisez ceux qui arrivent par le chemin Rockland et les autres immigrants avant un citoyen québécois et de Montréal. J'ai pourtant payé pendant des années mes taxes à Montréal. J'aimerais bien avoir une réponse positive. Merci. Numéro de dossier 2020-002-752. Merci pour votre question, M. Gagnon. Malheureusement, je pense que vous l'avez mal libellé. Ici, à Montréal-Ouest, nous n'avons pas ce type de liste pour des logements en prix modique. Je présume que vous voulez adresser votre question à la Ville de Montréal, mais je ne suis pas sûr. Mais je suis sûr que ça ne s'appartient pas ici à Montréal-Ouest. Alors, merci pour votre question. Malheureusement, je ne peux pas la répondre pour vous. Next question comes from Jim Mullally, 112 Broughton. I use a 20-volt cordless blower, which is much quieter than the 48 decibels or 52 decibel limits specified in the nuisance bylaw 456, Article 24.2. Apparently, there is no restriction on using hedge trimmers, string trimmers, lawn mowers, chainsaws, etc., which are much noisier. I have a birch tree hanging over my driveway which sheds seeds from the late spring to early autumn. Sweeping them away with my large garage broom is very inefficient and ineffective because my driveway is done in pavé uni stones. The restriction on blowers was obviously aimed at the noisy gas variety and should be revised. Councillor Yulin, please.
Certainly. Thanks very much for your question, Jim. Well, the leaf blower bylaw that restricts the use of leaf blowers was indeed put into place partly because of the noise factor, so you're right about that, but leaf blowers have other issues about them that aren't just related to noise pollution. There's fine particulate matter that's blown into the air, which is particularly difficult for people with allergies or respiratory illnesses. Of course, there's the greenhouse gas emissions that you note, which are bad when you're using the gas-powered blowers, and on some level, a disturbance of a natural habitat. But if we just take the fine particulate matter alone, that's actually quite a problem for a lot of people in the community. So the bylaw allows people to use a leaf blower, but just restricts when they can do so. And we're not, although we're looking into making some modifications to that bylaw, it would not be, we're not looking at changing the restrictions around them, but maybe looking at whether the gas-powered blowers are appropriate or should they be electric. We're going to have a discussion around that. But thank you very much for your question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin, and thank you for your question, Mr. Mullally. Next question comes from Julian Feldman, 36 Campbell. There's confusion concerning tree cutting permits. It seems commercial tree cutters are doubling as independent arborists, providing opinions to the town that a particular tree is diseased or weak and eligible for felling. While the town's tree bylaw does not appear to address the common conflict of interest in tree cutting, the town code of ethics does. Question: could a town staff member in theory run afoul of the town's tree cutting bylaw or the town code of ethics by issuing tree cutting permits where there exists a clear conflict of interest, given that the tree cutter's opinion is the basis of the permit? I'm going to answer that question myself, Mr. Feldman. No, the employee of the town has to ensure that there is a tree engineer or an arborist report. Whether the homeowner has hired the same arborist as the company that may actually fell the tree is not something that we look at. That's an independent, private interaction between the resident and whoever they want to hire to provide the report and or provide the service to fell a tree that needs to be felled. I'm going to use the same kind of an example. When you hire somebody to run a camera down your sewer, and it happens to be a plumber, are you going to say that there's some kind of a conflict of interest there because he's running the camera down and he'll be the person replacing the pipe? Or I'll use it in my own sphere. You go see a pharmacist and you're asking him, well, listen, I have a headache. Well, the pharmacist is going to sell you something, so does that put him in conflict of interest? I'm of the opinion that we don't. I have a code de deontology to adhere to, and I'm sure the arborists do as well. So I don't think that it really is a justifiable question. And our bylaw is very clear that we have to have an arborist report, and then that arborist report can then be used if somebody needs to make an application. So no, we don't see a conflict of interest there. Thank you for your question, Julian Feldman. Next question again is from Jim Mullally. Last year you answered that a clearly indicated crosswalk at Sherbrooke and Westminster would be an easy and expensive to do. Subsequent questions on this indicated it is dependent on the CPR work being done at the train station. Last question period, it was indicated that this was a very timely question because that work by CPR started. I asked who's responsible for the crosswalk, CPR or the city, and this was not answered. And I asked why this easy fix still hasn't been done. Please explain. The work that's going to be done at the Westminster and Sherbrooke intersection, I'm assuming that's the one we're talking about here. Yeah, Westminster and Sherbrooke is something that will be undertaken. The work will be generated by CPR because they're the people doing the work, actually EXO. So they'll be responsible for the work. It will be overseen by the town at the time. And that work I'm assuming will be done when they get further advanced in the work that they need to do to rip up the sidewalks on the south side of Sherbrooke to funnel everybody onto the north side of Sherbrooke. So I'm assuming that's going to come hand in hand then. Thank you for your question, Mr. Mullally. Next question comes from Susan Gottman, 76 Percival. Percival Avenue between Nelson and Milner has some significant holes similar to the one just patched on Milner and Westminster. When will these be repaired? When is this section scheduled for a complete redo? It's in terrible shape, probably the worst in all of Montreal-West. We have a lot of worst in Montreal-West. If I can ask Councillor Yulin to answer the question for Ms. Gottman.
Thanks
please.
very much, Susan, for your question. Well, I can tell you that in the next 3 years, we have commitments for other streets, some other infrastructure work on places like Avon and Courtney, but the block of Percival you're speaking about is in very bad condition, both under the street and on top. So that block of Percival is pretty high up on the list. I can't say it's not, I can tell you it's not going to happen in the next 3 years, but shortly thereafter, hopefully we'll get the funding to do Percival on your block. Thanks for your question.
Thank you, Councillor Yulin. Thank you for your question, Susan Gottman. Next question comes from Ian Robinson, 143 Ballantyne North. First question, the town has been using the going rate of inflation as a guiding factor for the residents' increase in annual taxes. Given inflation is running well over 8%, can the town indicate if there will be a change in approach to determining annual tax increases for residents' bills going forward? And a second question, 2023 is 7 months away and soon ground will be broken for the new recreation project. Can the town at this time indicate what formula they intend to use to determine a resident's tax increase for the project? Thank you. Councillor Feeney, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much, Ian, for your questions. They're very good questions, and I know they're on everybody's mind. So in terms of the first question, yes, the rate of inflation is currently very high, and we do have, as part of our strategic financial plan, that we try to keep our property tax increases at or below the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. That's not the only factor we use, though. We've been very good at trying to limit our local expenses to ensure that our taxes don't go up. We've been very successful at that. So that's one thing we start at. And I can tell you that I can't promise any particular percent, but we will continue to try to limit our local expenses. And we'll have to just see what the inflationary pressures are, I should say, on our own local budget. However, a large portion of our budget is salaries, and our salaries will not be going up 8%. So, we're hoping that if the inflation rate is still that high, that certainly that will not translate into tax increases that are that high. But rest assured, we are always looking at it, and we'll try our hardest to keep them at a reasonable rate. So that's for the first question related to the property tax increases. Secondly, insofar as the recreation centre goes, that's also another great question, and I know everybody wants to know the answer to that. Fact of the matter is, we're still in the planning process of the project. As we get further in, the estimate of the costs get a little bit more definite. So we'll have to wait till that gets more definite. We got a better idea of the price point of the project, number one. And then after that, we will factor into it certain things. Of course, our grant. We will factor into it how much fundraising we have done, how much the town is able to submit from our surplus, and what our business plan for the operating plan of the arena looks like, of the new recreation center looks like. So once those things are done, then definitely we will come to the residents with a better idea of how that is going to impact their taxes. It's a bit premature right now, so you'll have to be a little bit more patient, but thank you for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Feeney, and thank you for your question, questions, Mr. Robinson. And last question comes from Stephen Mon, 31 Ainsley Road. The level crossing on Westminster is anything but level. Struts, coils, and shock absorbers are being slowly destroyed every day. Many Mo-Westers use this crossing every day. Every route, north, south, and east onto Sherbrooke, rattles one's teeth. Is there any way for the town to prevail upon CP Rail to effect repairs, however minimal? You're raising a very good point, Mr. Mon. Between the barriers is CP territory. We're not allowed to touch it, but absolutely we can pass along your concern, and it's a very valid concern. I come over that track myself, and I know no matter how smooth it is before and after the level crossing, while you're going over, it's jarring to say the least. So we'll pass that along to CP to see if they can do some touch-ups. Thank you very much for your question, Mr. Mon. So that concludes the first public question period. Returning to the agenda, contracts in the town clerk's office. Ville de Beaconsfield contre la Ville de Montréal et le gouvernement du Québec. Mandat confié à un procureur de représenter la Ville de Montréal-Ouest et des autres villes liées. And I'll just give you a little précis at the end of the motion in English.
OK. Merci, Monsieur le maire. Attendu que les 13 décembre 2020 et le 15 janvier 2021, le ministre des Affaires municipales et de l'Habitation, MAMH, a publié un arrêté concernant les règles permettant d'établir le potentiel fiscal des municipalités liées de l'agglomération de Montréal au fin de la répartition des dépenses d'agglomération, prévoyant la mise en place d'un comité de travail composé de représentants de la Ville de Montréal et de l'Association des municipalités de banlieue. Attendu que ce comité de travail avait pour but de réviser les modalités de répartition des quotes-parts, notamment le calcul du potentiel fiscal ou toute autre solution pérenne qui devrait faire rapport à la ministre au plus tard le 31 août 2021. Attendu que le 15 décembre 2021, le MAMH a publié un arrêté concernant les règles permettant d'établir le potentiel fiscal des municipalités liées de l'agglomération de Montréal en fin de la répartition des dépenses d'agglomération, remplaçant ce coefficient de 0,48 par celui de 2,68 et prenant effet à compter de l'exercice financier 2022, attendu que la ville de Beaconsfield a déposé une procédure judiciaire le 15 janvier 2021 contre le procureur général du Québec et la ville de Montréal et que l'ensemble des villes liées y ont inscrit à titre de mise en cause, attendu que ce procédure judiciaire soulève des enjeux pour les intérêts de la ville de Montréal-Ouest en matière de fiscalité d'agglomération et qu'elle entend d'assurer une défense pleine et entière. En conséquence, je propose, numéro 1, que Maître Kurt Johnson et Olga Redko de la firme IMK, SENCL, CRL, LLP, soient mandatés à cette fin en remplaçant le maître Nicolas X. Cloutier de la firme McCarthy Tétrault, SENCRL, SRL. Deuxièmement, que la ville s'engage à payer une fraction des honoraires et dépenses encourus proportionnellement à la ville de Montréal-Ouest dans le potentiel fiscal des villes liées, excepté Beaconsfield et Saint-Anne-de-Bellevue, qui participent au recours judiciaire en question, c'est-à-dire 1,98% de tout mandat facturé à cette fin. Troisièmement, que le directeur général de la ville de Kirkland soit désigné comme le répondant pour ce groupe de municipalités. Et quatrièmement, que la cité de Dorval soit désignée comme étant le point de chute pour le paiement de ses honoraires et dépenses.
Je peux voir l'appui, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Feeney et la conseillère Torres. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Merci. So what we're doing, folks, is Beaconsfield launched a lawsuit against the Minister of Municipal Affairs in the idea with trying to get what seems like a very actual legal procedure that the minister used, an arrêté ministériel. So Beaconsfield thought that they were going to go to court. We had a lawyer that was representing us. We're changing the lawyer. The demerged towns are changing the lawyer to have somebody take a little bit more of an observer role rather than an active role or trying to lead this. This is Beaconsfield leading this against Montreal and the Minister of Municipal Affairs. We're there strictly, our lawyers there strictly to make sure that our rights are being looked after. So we're going to this other law firm, and we also changed the way we split the bill. We split the bill equally before, and we're not now. We're splitting it based on our potentiel fiscal. Number 10, Administration and Finances, approval of disbursements for the period April 21 to May 27, 2022.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I move that the list of accounts payable from April 21st to May 27th, 2022, totaling $713,839.05, be approved and paid as listed.
Thank you very much. Councillor Feeney, can I have a seconder, please?
I second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Small-Pennefather, all in favor, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Délégation des pouvoirs pour le mois de mai 2022.
Je propose d'approuver le rapport de la directrice générale concernant l'exercice des pouvoirs délégués en vertu du règlement numéro 2-005-002 pour le mois de mai 2022.
Merci. La conseillère Small-Pennefather, je peux avoir l'appui, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, je l'appuie.
Merci. La conseillère Yulin, tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Oui.
Merci. Number 11, the Urban Department, Site Planning Projects and Architectural Integration Program. Councillor Torres?
Yes. I move to acknowledge receipt of the minutes of the meeting held by the Planning Advisory Committee, PAC, on May 25th, 2022. To approve as presented under the SPA the following plans submitted to this meeting in accordance with the recommendations of the PAC as outlined in the minutes. 37 Brook North, replacement of one window. 6 Campbell, replacement of a patio and 3 windows. 235 Wolseley North, replacement of 21 windows. 53 Valentine North, painting of the front windows, shutters, and canopy above the front door. To approve with conditions under the SPIP the following plans submitted to this meeting in accordance with the recommendations of the PAC as outlined in the minutes. 66 Curson, replacement of front porch, decking, stairs, and railing. To defer the examination of the following plans to a next meeting in this council in accordance with the recommendations of the PAC as outlined in the minutes. 36 Courtney, replacement of 10 windows and the front door. 149 Radcliffe, replacement of the front door. 115 Strather North, construction of a garden shed in the backyard. 9 Rennie, replacement of 12 windows, 1 door, window sills and lintels. 246 Westminster North, replacement of the front stairs, landing and railings.
Thank you very much. Councillor Torres, can I have a seconder, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I second the motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Small-Pennefather, all in favor, please.
Aye.
Parfait, merci. Il y a une demande de dérogation sur le 37 Milner. Je vais demander à la conseillère Torres de faire un petit résumé, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, je m'excuse que je peux le faire en
Oui, allez-y, comme vous voulez.
je
Oui,
m'excuse.
allez-y.
The 37 Milner, they have an existing fence. This is a house that doesn't have a backyard. It's only a side yard, but more to the front. And the existing fence is 5 feet tall. So they're asking to have the fence replaced in the same place, the same dimensions, except for the height. The height is 5 feet, which is what it is authorized, and they just want to do a 6 feet for privacy purposes. Next door, there is a parking space, and across the street, there is an office building or a commercial building. So this is what they're asking.
Thank you very much. Councillor Torres, alors, si vous pouvez proposer l'adoption, s'il vous plaît.
Oui. Je propose d'accepter les plans soumis à la réunion du comité consultatif d'urbanisme du 20 avril 2022, conformément aux dispositions du règlement 2020-002 et J-18-0005 et la demande suivante de dérogation mineure au paragraphe 1 du 3e alinéa de l'article 4.6.3 du règlement de zonage, en ce qui a trait à l'immeuble situé au 37 Milner dans la zone RB-5, afin de mettre l'érection d'une clôture d'une hauteur de 6 pieds en cours avant, alors que la norme autorisant d'un maximum de 2 pieds. Ceci ayant un effet d'augmenter cette limite de 4 pieds.
Merci. La conseillère Torres, je peux avoir l'appui, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, je l'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. La conseillère Small-Pennefather, tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Oui.
Parfait, merci. The next one is a minor exemption request, for 61 Brock North. Councillor Torres, if you could just do a little summary?
Yes, this is the owner of this residence. They have an existing parking, and they're doing extensive renovations on their house, and they would like to extend the parking area or the hardscaping from 35%, which is what is allowed under our bylaws, to 48%. So they can park, instead of parking one car behind the other, they want to park one next to the other.
Thank you very much, Councillor Torres. If I could have somebody move the motion, please.
I move that the minor exemption requests from paragraph 5.3 of section 5.2.3 of the zoning bylaw, which is submitted to the April 20th, 22 meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee, be refused in accordance with the committee's recommendation regarding an immovable located at 61 Brock North in Zone RA-5 to allow paving 48% of the land surface in the front yard, while the maximum is 35% for the lot of this width.
Thank you very much. Councillor Small-Pen, Father, can I have a seconder, please?
I second it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Torres, all in favor, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Payment for compensation for a parking place, 171 Brock South.
I move to accept the request presented by the owner of the immovable quoted in title in order to compensate for 2 missing parking places for a condo development project subject to the payment of a total sum of $10,000 in accordance with section 5.1.5 of zoning bylaw number 2020-002.
Thank you very much. Councillor Small-Pen, Father, can I have a seconder, please?
I second it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Torres, all in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Number 12, Public Works. Appointment of a municipal representative to lead the drafting of a joint request for funding from several cities to the Government of Canada's 2 Billion Trees Program.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, whereas in the 2020 Fall Economic Statement, the federal government announced a financial contribution of up to $3.2 billion over 10 years, starting in 2021-2022, to meet its commitment to plant 2 billion trees under the heading 2BT, whereas this pledge is part of a comprehensive approach to natural climate solutions led by Minister of Natural Resources with support from the Minister of Environment and Climate Change Canada and the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. Whereas the 2BT program provides funding to support tree planting projects but does not provide trees or seedlings directly to the applicants, this being the applicant's responsibility. Whereas the 2BT program will establish a rolling application intake process where multiple review processes per year will start in 2022, whereas there is no fixed timeline yet for a call for proposals, whereas the 2BT program supports tree planting activities beyond those legally required activities, focusing on new tree planting projects and additions to existing projects that would not otherwise have occurred, whereas the application may include tree planting in rural or urban areas on public lands with Indigenous partners or private landowners or any combination thereof, whereas joint applications from multiple applicants may be submitted, whereas funding agreements will only be signed with one entity as the principal recipient, which is why joint applications must specify the person who will be the main partner, whereas tree planting projects will support 3 project streams: the mass planting stream, the urban-suburban stream, and the limited small projects stream, whereas proposed projects must meet the minimum planting requirements of their respective stream, i.e. funding for mass planting, over 500,000 trees per year, funding for small-scale planting, over 50,000 trees per year, funding for urban-suburban planting, over 20,000 trees per year. Therefore, I move that the Town of Montreal-West appoint Mr. Andrew Duffield, Director of Sustainable Development for the City of Beaconsfield, as the main partner and trusted person to lead the drafting of a joint funding request from 11 municipalities on the island of Montreal, including Montreal-West, to the $2 billion tree program. Second, that the town undertake to give Mr. Andrew Duffield access to all necessary information and to offer him the support required to complete the application. Thirdly, that the final version of the application drafted by the main partner be approved by Town Council.
Thank you very much. Councillor Yulin, can I have a seconder, please?
Yes, I second it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Torres, all in favor, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Number 12B, Elizabeth Ballantyne School, Centennial, request to the town.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, whereas Elizabeth Ballantyne School is celebrating its centennial in 2022, whereas a time capsule was buried 25 years ago on the grounds of the school, whereas the school is planning to unearth the time capsule as part of the celebrations, whereas the school authorities have requested that the town assist in this matter by providing the necessary equipment and manpower for excavation work. Therefore, I move that the town of Montreal-West accept this request from Elizabeth Ballantyne School, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the school authorities must agree to release the town from any liability in the event a time capsule is damaged as a result of the excavation. Secondly, that the town participation shall be recognized in every communication from the school relating to this event. And lastly, that any communique, press release, or social media intervention shall be forwarded to the town in order to share them on the municipal platforms.
Thank you very much. Councillor Yulin, can I have a seconder, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I second that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Feeney, all in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. We've done this before. We've done this, I think, for Edinburgh. We helped them dig up a time capsule. Now it's EBS's turn. Nothing under human resources or appointments. Deposit of documents. So 15A, confirmation of training, ethics, and good conduct. In accordance with Section 15 of the Municipal Ethics and Good Conduct, all council members have participated in a professional development program on municipal ethics and good conduct within 6 months after the beginning of their current term since the last election. And be a deposit of, I hereby also deposit the report consolidating the consultations that we held for the new Sports and Recreation Center. The consultations we held were consolidated into one report, and that report was being deposited with council. Notice of motion, reading and adoption of bylaws. Adoption of bylaw 2022-004, bylaw amending bylaw number 2018-002, concerning the applicable rate for duties on transfers where the basis of imposition is in excess of $500,000.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Whereas a copy of this bylaw in draft version was previously tabled at a council meeting when the notice of motion was given and made available in accordance with the law, whereas the purpose and scope of this bylaw was summed up at the present meeting, therefore I move that bylaw number 2022-004, entitled Bylaw Amending Bylaw number 2018-002, concerning the applicable rate for duties on transfers where the basis of imposition is in excess of $500,000, be adopted.
Thank you very much. Councillor Feeney, can I have a seconder, please?
I second that.
Thank you, Councillor Yulin. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Second question period is for anybody in the room or anybody online that wanted to. I haven't seen anything online, and I don't see anybody stepping up to the microphone in the room. So if I could have, je peux avoir quelqu'un pour proposer la levée de la séance, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, je propose de lever la séance, Monsieur le Maire.
Merci, la conseillère Yulin. L'appui, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Torres. Tout en faveur.
Oui.
Merci. Alors, la séance est levée. Thank you very much, folks, for coming out. Merci.